You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
DOJ lawyers warn they can lose their bar licenses by irritated judges. Based on an article by Sarah K. Burris. The state chased a leak and exposed its own abuse. The surface story. The immediate dispute was simple. The Justice Department, under Donald Trump's pressure, went after the New York Times to identify the source of a report about Trump's Qatar-gifted plane and the embarrassment surrounding it. A federal judge in New York forced the government to back down after finding the subpoenas failed basic legal requirements. That is the least important part of the story. Who had the power? The power in this case sat exactly where it usually sits in Trump era governance, at the top, in the hands of the president, his loyalists, and the Justice Department officials willing to convert presidential irritation into state action. Trump was embarrassed and the missionary responded. Susie, Wiles, and FBI Director Kash Patel launched their own hunt. Cabinet officials were made to hand over phones. Reporters were subpoenaed. Family members were pulled into the dragnet. This was not confusion. It was political retaliation with legal stationery. The press was not the target alone. The Times was a former target, but a broader message was directed at anyone inside government who might talk and anyone outside government who might publish. When the White House treats embarrassment as a security breach, the state stops protecting the public and starts policing narrative control. The article's framing leans toward the trauma of a courtroom scolding, but the underlying issue is more serious. The administration tried to weaponize legal investigation rules against the press while demanding obedience from the executive branch itself. That is a classic authoritarian move dressed up as procedure. Blanche owns the signature. The legal fault line matters because it reveals responsibility, not just incompetence. Special rules apply when the Justice Department targets the media. The source says those steps were not followed and that Todd Blanche, Trump's Attorney General nominee, had approved the subpoenas at the highest level. According to the courtroom exchange described here, Blanche did sign off. That means the blame does not stop at some overzealous subordinate in the Southern District of New York. The decision ran upward. The institution did not malfunction on its own. It was made to serve the president's grievance. Misdirection as method. This story is also about how power tries to launder retaliation through language. The government can call it a leak probe. The source can call it embarrassment. Lawyers can call it process. But the outcome is the same. State coercion used to intimidate journalists and conceal the lead's failure. The judge's intervention matters because it interrupted the cover story. He did not merely swat away a technical error. He exposed that the Justice Department had tried to bend the rules while pretending it was acting in good faith. The embarrassment here belongs less to the plain story than to the officials who turned the media report into legal overreach. The pattern is a point. This is what authoritarian governance looks like in practice, not always spectacle. Often paperwork. A leader feels exposed. Loyalists mobilize the state. Lawyers paper over the motive. Journalists become the defendant class. Courts are left to clean up after the fact. The deeper lesson is not about one subpoena. It is about an administration that treats institutional power as personal property and the justice system as an instrument for managing humiliation. That is the pattern. The blame was the excuse. The abuse was a point. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternate for today's article. With the automated voice of Anna, thanks for listening.